Hey there guys, welcome to my movie vlog. My name's John Campea, and this is my quick review of the brand new Gerard Butler cop con heist film, Den of Thieves. I know it sounds like a weird comparison, but to me this movie comes across in its DNA a little bit like a cross between Al Pacino and Robert De Niro's Heat and Point Break. Just to be clear, the original cool Patrick Swayze Point Break, not the shitty remake that we got. The premise for the film is simple enough. I mean, you've got this crew of ex-military dudes trying to pull off the crime of the century. On the other side, you've got this cop group led by Gerard Butler who kind of live outside the law just a little bit and kind of adopt a do whatever it takes to get the job done kind of attitude. So obviously this leads us to a best of the best cons versus a best of the best cops heading toward an inevitable showdown. And you know what? When it's all said and done, Den of Thieves is not terrible. The problem with it is that you can tell inside this movie is an actual brilliant movie that unfortunately gets clouded and cluttered by a lot of crap that was unnecessarily thrown on top of it. Start off with the things I liked about the movie. Gerard Butler is great. No, really, Gerard Butler is great in this movie. I don't think I've liked Gerard Butler this much in a film since The Ugly Truth. Yeah, shut up. I like The Ugly Truth. I think that's a really underrated comedy. Now, don't get me wrong, there's nothing revolutionary that breaks the mold with the character that he's called on to play, but he does deliver us a multi-leveled, multi-dimensional character. A rough cop, he's got some hard edges, he's got some soft edges, he's kind of a good guy, but kind of a bad guy. He's a mixed bag, and Gerard Butler does a really good job bringing that to the screen. Also, this movie doesn't work at all if the leader of the bad guys isn't really convincing as well, and is played by an actor named Pablo Schreiber, who plays Merriman, the leader of the hijack crew, if you will. And he does a great job. Again, bringing us a multi-layered, multi-dimensional character where there's more to him than just meets the eye. He's just not a stereotypical bad guy or anything like that. And this is the level where it sort of starts to feel like Heat a little bit, because really, the movie ultimately, when you boil it down, becomes a chess match between the heads of the two factions. You got the lead cop in Gerard Butler, you got the lead villain, or the lead heister, if you will, in Pablo Schreiber. And it's really the dynamic between the two of them and the way the movie plays out this kind of inevitable head-to-head collision that they're heading for that makes the movie work. Let me throw this in there too. O'Shea Jackson, who is of course Ice Cube's son, he did a good job in Straight Outta Compton, but could he really act, or was he just doing a really good impression of his father? I mean, that's what a lot of us ask. But you know what? He's solid in Den of Thieves. Now, don't get me wrong, he's not going to end up being one of the top 20 performances of the year, not by any stretch of the imagination. But I was very curious to see how O'Shea Jackson would do when he's not just imitating his dad and had to take on a completely different character. And I gotta tell you, he sold me on him. I'm actually really curious to see what he does next. And while by no stretch of the imagination is this a comedy, there are some really good moments of humor brought into the film, just peppered in there here and there to bring a little bit of levity to it, to kind of lighten the mood a little bit here and there when things start to get a little bit too heavy. And I'll say this too. There is a scene in this movie that involves 50 Cent and his daughter, and the guy taking his daughter out on a date, okay? There's a scene in the movie where that happens, where something happens in the scene that I absolutely know right now, even though it's only January in 2018, is gonna end up in my top 10 funniest moments in all of movies for 2018. It's really clever. Keep your eyes open for it if you go to watch the movie. If you're doing a movie that you're calling a heist movie, you damn well better have a pretty good heist. And I gotta say, while this isn't the best heist film I've ever seen, or the best heist plan I've seen in the last couple of years, it's solid. When they start pulling off the capers, when they start pulling off the heists, the intricacies of the plan and how it unfolds and the curveballs that come, I was into it and kind of drew me in. Now, with all that good stuff out of the way, unfortunately, there's a lot of other elements in the film that really muddy the waters and make this film a far less enjoyable experience than it could have been. There are so many scenes in this movie that are dedicated to looking at the family life of Gerard Butler's character. Now, I understand the filmmakers are trying to humanize the character for the audience, but as the movie progresses, you realize that all these side stories with him and his family and his family drama with his wife and his kids and all that kind of stuff, you ultimately realize this isn't actually going anywhere. Like, none of this stuff, all this screen time they're dedicating to showing Gerard Butler's family home life is actually for no purpose whatsoever, because the runtime on this movie is 130 minutes. That's 2 hours and 10 minutes. And I'll tell you right now, they easily could have shaved a full half hour out of this film. One of the other big downsides of this film to me is I mentioned that the heist elements are pretty good, and you feel throughout the movie that you got the two heads of these groups heading towards an inevitable confrontation. But I gotta say, the climax of the film was a little anticlimactic. Heist films are a lot like gymnastics in that way. You can do all the great somersaults and flips and axles and everything you want to do, but you gotta stick the landing, and I really feel like they just didn't stick the landing in this film. At the end of the day, Den of Thieves ends up being one of these movies that I'm a little bit frustrated with, because while it works out okay, you can just kind of feel like within this movie, in its DNA, there are the building blocks and some of the executed elements to not just give us a good movie, but a bloody brilliant movie. Instead, a lot of that really positive stuff is covered over with useless screen time, useless side stories, some questionable performances amongst some of the really good performances, as well as failing to stick the landing that just kind of sours what could have been a really great experience in the movie theater. Because of all the good things in the movie, I'm going to say that Den of Thieves is okay. If you want to go and check it out, I wouldn't dissuade you, but I also wouldn't encourage you to drop what you're doing to run out and see it either. So the question is, what are you expecting out of Den of Thieves? Have you had a chance to see it so far? If so, jump down to the comments section and leave your thoughts below. Also, guys, since you're here anyway, why don't you take a second and click on that subscribe button, become a subscriber to my YouTube channel. Make sure you click the thumbs up on this video to get more videos like this. And also, if you want to follow me on social media, on Facebook, Twitter, or Instagram, just look right here. You can find my online ID simply at John Campea. That'll do it for me, guys. Thanks so much for joining me. My name's John Campea, and until my next video, bye-bye.